But just before we do that, I'd like to bring up something. I don't know if this ever happens to you or not, but I'll read over scriptures, and I've read over for years, and I just kind of scan over them. I think I understand them. But I go back, and something triggers, and I see a deeper meaning in the whole thing. I really do. And I mentioned to you last Sunday, I was going to bring up the 14th chapter of Genesis. And how many knows how many kings was involved in this battle? There was 4 kings that fought 5 kings. And the 4 kings won. Okay? And this took place in a country you've probably heard about now. We call it the Middle East. The Arab countries. And if you know today, a lot of those groups still go by king. You've got the king of Jordan, the king of Saudi Arabia. Egypt used to have a king till, I think they went republic in the early 50s. But throughout the history, there's always been a war, man. One with another, okay? And if you have your Bibles, turn over to the 14th chapter of Genesis. And I want to read. This is the first record that we have of war, as I understand it. And the names are kind of hard, but I would like to talk about it just for a few minutes, because out of that battle, believe it or not, has come something that we are blessed with today. And this happened, I don't know, probably almost 4,000 years ago, about 3,500 years ago. It's called the chapter, that's called the Battle of the Kings, Genesis 14th chapter. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, I should say. Shinar is an area today in Iraq. We know it as Babylon. Okay, he was king of that area. The next king, Arioch, king of, let's say, Elazar. Okay, he was just south of there. He had a territory that he controlled, which was mainly southern Iraq. Kedorlaomer, king of Elam. That was the area of Persia on the very west side. He was controlling. We know of Persia today as what country?
Iran.
Iran, that's right. 4th king, title, King of the Nations. Basically, he had the area that the Kurds has today. Kurds have part of Syria and part of Turkey. That's right. And these kings were not the nicest kings around. Okay? They had a covenant with people, or with other groups, which was a lot around the Jordan area, the Jordan River, that time. And does anyone know, what is a covenant?
Pact. An agreement.
Agreement?
An agreement.
Yeah,
An
agreement, a bond. I'll get it down here. It can be a vow, oath, guarantee, a pledge.
It's a contract.
Yeah, a contract. Very good. But he has a different type. There's different types of covenants. Okay, and the name of this one was a Serenian covenant. And what that means is you have one powerful, let's say a powerful king here, and he has conquered this area of the kingdom that he controls. And you can have people under him, and they're in this covenant with him, basic to give tribute to. Today we would probably call it taxes, or we call it protection money. In other words, it's not by agreement on the little guy, but it's by agreement on the big guy. He says, if you're going to live in this area, you're going to give us so much. And if someone would come into that area and maybe they had a nice metal or down by the river, agricultural area, he'd say, okay, you can stay in this area here, but you have to give me so much of what you raise. 10%, 20%, whatever it was. It was just, And matter of fact, that's where the name landlord comes from. Okay, that we use today. Okay, the main king here is Kedorlaomer, and he had done battle before with the groups around the Jordan River. Okay, this was I can't even think of the name of them now. Sodom, the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, a couple other kings there. Okay, and he made war with them. Second verse. That these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bashir, king of Gomorrah, Shinar, king of Admah, and Shibur, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. Zor is just south of the Dead Sea. So it's all around the Dead Sea area, basically, in this thing. And the third verse, it started explaining what was going on. These 5 kings was paying tribute to the main king there, Kedorlaomer, and they did it for 12 years. And they got tired of paying their tribute, taxes, their protection money. 13th year, he didn't do it. And to make a long story short, the main king noticed that, okay? Let's read the next verse. 12 years, they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year, they rebelled. 5th verse. And in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer, and the king that were with him, and the kings that were with him, and smote. Okay, now, I didn't get the picture. I wish I could have. You could see the countries. When they started coming after these people, tribes around the Dead Sea, he got his buddies, the other 3 kings, and they had other areas they began to conquer. And of course, when you fight other kingdoms, especially back then, the enemy that lost, a lot of times they would take those soldiers and add to the kingdom, or to their military, okay? So your military began to swell, get bigger and bigger and bigger. Number 5, and in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rethans, and here again, I can't pronounce these, Ishrai, and Knig, and the Zimmons, and Ham, and Immons, and Shevin, and you can say it, and the Horites in the Mount Seir unto Ephraim, which is by the wilderness. Number 7, and they returned and came to Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites and also Amorites that dwelt in the Hebron Tarma. Okay, and now after they've done all these other battles, they came up to the area of the Dead Sea. And there went out the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zor, which is south of the Dead Sea. And they joined battle with them, and the Baal is Siddim, and that's Baal stands for valley. And here again, that's just below the Dead Sea. And with Kedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Emperor, king of Shinar, and Ar, king of Elazar, 4 kings with 5. And the Baal of Siddim was full of slime pits. That's known as tar pits, okay? And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, they began the battle, and they got scared, and they ran. The Bible says they fled. And fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. At this time judgment had not come to Sodom and Gomorrah. 13th verse. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Merer, and the Amorite, brother of Escadal, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abraham. In other words, they were his friends. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed and trained his servants, born in his own house 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Here is faith. Abram went up to fight these 5 kings. I have no idea how many thousands of men they had. But Abram had 318. How many remembers the story of Gideon with Mennonites? Does anyone remember how many thousands of Mennonites there were?
Around 250,000.
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but it was incredible. Okay, if you notice, Abraham, he didn't go to the other kings that were left, to the other towns, to get help. He knew who his protector was. Because remember, God had called Abram out of the city of Ur. He wanted Abram to be different. And God spoke to Abram. And he went in pursuit. 318 men against, here again, literally thousands. But Abram had such a special relationship with God. God gave him the directions and the ability to overtake these 4 other kings. He did it at night. Okay? And the Bible doesn't say much how he did it, but he did it through what God had promised him. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them and pursued them unto Habal, which is on the left-hand side of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother's son Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. 318 people did this against roughly 250, or I don't know, 100,000 people, whoever it was, the soldiers. Now, remember the king of Sodom? He was fighting the war, okay, and he got afraid and he ran to the mountains. Well, shows back up. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Zipporah, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dell. Now here enters a very important person. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God, Melchizedek. 7th chapter of, I believe it's Hebrew, talks a lot about him. And he blessed him, Abraham, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And he blessed, Be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord. In other words, I know where my protection came from. I know who guided my life. I know who protected me and my men. And don't be deceived. I will not depend on for you for anything, because my covenant is with God. In other words, you had the big king and the little king. It was horizontal, the relationship. Abraham changed that. It went vertical, okay? His relationship for dependence, for protections, for trust, was in no other king except God. So he took it vertical there. 20th. And he blessed be the Most High God, which had delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abraham, give me the persons, take the goods thyself. And Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from thee a thread, even to a shoe latch, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me. Anor, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. Abram had set up something called tithes. I believe it was done before, because a lot of things are passed down. It was verbal, okay? This wasn't written down in words until Moses wrote it down. He was the one given the credit for doing it. And Abram made a statement here. His covenant was with God. No other king, not with man. It was with God. 15th chapter, first verse. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceedingly great reward. We're seeing the picture of what God has set up for tithes. This is well over 400 years before the law was written down by Moses. Okay, so tithes comes in, started way before the law did, okay? And when the law ended, the tithes didn't end. You'll find in the 3rd chapter, I think it's Galatians, 30th verse, talks about if we be in Christ, we are of the covenant of Abraham. And tithes, sometimes some people think it's the main purpose is to support the church, okay? That's not the main purpose. Don't get me wrong, it is a purpose. But we give tithes to God to show our gratitude, our thanks, and our love. Because even Christ, when he was speaking, he made this statement, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is, okay? And by giving in tithes this way, we can show God where our hearts are at. Very, very important. There was a transformation that took place here. Matter of fact, here is just a comment, and everybody knows this. Tithes and offerings are a way to send our treasures to heaven ahead of us. Some people say that you can't take anything to heaven. But yes, you can. You can send your treasures ahead. And there's another thing that we can take to heaven with us. Other people. Okay? So we can do things like that. But what I wanted to say about the importance of tithes, it is important. It really is. That's part of the promise of Abraham. That's part of the covenant and agreement that we have with God. And we will be helped. We will be protected. And I'd like to just give a few examples of my life for I saw the hand of God move. Okay? I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I've done a lot of things wrong, okay? I didn't do it right. But there's a few things in life I got right. Something happened in Vietnam. You know, most of you know I was a pilot there. And on the QE, we had 4 crew member team. You had the pilot, which is called the aircraft commander, you had the co-pilot, and you had the crew chief and a gunner, which they worked as 2 gunners. And this happened while I was in Vietnam. We had went out on the mission that day, and we got a call from a fire base. And they had wounded, they needed to get out. And they called us, and I responded back because I was a pilot in charge. And I said, okay, give us your coordinates and we'll come in. And we did. We got out there. And you want everything to happen real quick. You call in and say, we're 2 minutes out, or 3 minutes, because you're flying right at the tree line, the top, because you want to keep your exposure down. And you're saying, we're coming across the horizon in 30 seconds. So we swoop out of the trees above the trees there, and we landed. And they began piling them on people as quick as they could. And we took off. Now, when something like that's happening, your adrenaline is just blowing. Okay? And we took them back to another base where they could have, medical help, things like that. And we got another call. Called in, it was another fire base up the road about 10 or 15 miles. And here again, we took off, and of course my adrenaline's just flowing, and the co-pilot and the gunners, it's just flowing. And you gotta remember, over in Vietnam, at this time, I was 20 years old. Okay? And except for maybe the co-pilot, everybody was younger. We were just young. But we were en route to the second fire base. And, we're just excited. I shouldn't say excited, just concerned. Because in the military, and some's been here in the military, there's just a covenant with each other, understanding. You're ready to lay down your life to help your buddy. It was just that way. En route, we were going along the treetop levels, and I was at the controls. And we're all ready, and the gunners are just, ready to go. And all is fine. I have never had this happen before, and I've never had it happen since. A voice came into my head, and it said, turn around and go back. It was as clear, crystal clear as I'm talking to you today. And I know no one else heard that voice, but I did. And I came over the intercom to the crew and I said, we're turning around, we're going back. And I could see the expression, why? That as a pilot command, you didn't have to give an answer. I wasn't going to tell them I heard a voice. I wasn't going to do that.
No.
We turned around and we went back, and we went back doing some other missions. Later, I heard another helicopter try getting into that fire base and was shot down. They didn't make it. There was no doubt in my mind that voice was coming from God. No doubt. And you know what I did when I got out of the service? I've been able to save a little bit of money there. By today's standard, it wasn't a whole lot. It was, for a soldier who made a few $100s a month, it was $2,000. When I got out, I paid tithes on it. I did. I didn't understand about the covenant of tithes, the covenant of Abraham. The only Abraham I'd really read about at that time, his last name was Lincoln, okay? That was the only one I really knew. But, as time went on, this is where I met a pastor down in Bakersfield when I got out of the service there. And I paid tithes, because I just knew it was right. Didn't understand, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And my wife and I, she's deceased now, but we bought our first house when I think I was 21 or 22. She was 19 or 20 at the time. And we were doing good. And then while I was down there, I lost my job. But we were still okay, because I had unemployment. You know, with her check and my unemployment, we made our bills. And then she lost her job. And we had a house payment. And I've always tried to pay my bills. The first month came along, and I looked at the checking account, and there wasn't enough money to pay the house payment. But I had money, and I paid my tithes. Okay? I paid my tithes. The second month came along, and I was trying to get the money together to, pay the second mortgage payment. I didn't have it. I hadn't paid the first, and I couldn't pay the second. But I paid my tithes. The third month came along, and we were getting mail-in letters from the mortgage company talking about them repossessing the house. This was the third month. And I still didn't have the money to pay for the mortgage payment. But on my unemployment, I paid my tithes. Shortly after that, I got a check from the government, and which they owed me as back pay from education. And God bless us, we were able to pay the mortgage and got all caught up. And I believe that was a gift from God. Okay. And I would like to share something else with you about the protection of the covenant of Abraham of paying tithes. Sometimes you get a curveball thrown at you, you never see it coming. Okay? This was in September of 2009. Like any other day, it was a nice day. And it was about 10:30 in the morning. I called the office, and the lady said, I got a call I need for you to go out. It's just an estimate, so talk to him. I said, sure, I can do it. So I headed on over to the call. And as normal, when I'm talking to customers, I leave my phone in the vehicle. And just talking to him, it took about an hour. And at this time, I came back to my vehicle, and it was about 11:30. I glanced at my phone, and it was 13 calls, which that's very, very unusual. And I thought, well, I'll call him back, but first, here again, another blessing I've been blessed with before and up to this day. I have lunch with my two sons every workday. Very seldom we miss. And I thought, well, I'll call them and then return these calls on my way to lunch. So I called my first son, Aaron. And this might sound strange, but someone can speak to you in simple English and you not understand it, not even comprehend it. I called my son, and this is what he said. He said, Dad, a bomb came in the mail today, and it went off. And I could not comprehend that, not at all. I said, what are you talking about? I could not understand what he was saying. But the next few words were the words that a parent never wants to hear. Dad, I'm at the emergency room, Quid Delta Hospital. I comprehended that. And just to fill you in there, what had happened, a bomb had come through the mail. And it was addressed to me. Then it was a box. And Aaron just thought it was a part that I had ordered. So he went to open it so he could, put it away or put it on my desk or whatever. And as he opened the box, he saw in there what do you call the fishing boxes? Tackle box in it. And it was all filled around it with his peanut styrofoam packing, okay? And instead of actually pulling it out, he opened it while it was still in the box. And as he opened it, he saw it was a series of pipe bombs. Okay? And it went off. And the investigators told us later it was red, basically, if he pulled it out, they all went off. They would all have went off. But even the one that went off had a crack in it. And it didn't go off completely. The investigator told us if it had went off like it was designed to, it would have killed my son, knocked out the walls, and killed Letty, the receptionist. And I look at that and I think that was a hand of protection of God for being obedient to Him and paying the tithes. He honored me because I took time to honor Him with my substance. And I believe in tithes. I really do. Because in life, all of us get some curveballs thrown at us sometimes. And to show you how powerful the covenant of tithes is, we are blessed right here in the local church. I happen to know that tithes come into the church here from people that don't even attend here. And I asked the pastor, how many families do we have that pay tithes to this local church that don't attend here? Either most of them are physically too far away, and some are just physically not able to enter. We have 5 families that believe in the powers of the covenant of tithes, and we are truly blessed from what Abraham did these thousands of years ago. And the promise of Abraham that God gave to him, we reap the benefits today. Okay? And I can't say enough how important it is to pay tithes. Start off early, and God will glorify you as you glorify Him. It really will. Brother Angel, would you go ahead and take up the offering?